This is why you should always watch videos to the end. In 2003, a woman came home to her apartment to see that her door was unlocked. She went inside, nothing was missing, so she assumed she must have left it open. When it happened a few more times, but still nothing was missing in her apartment, she went out and got a camera, set it up in her apartment aimed at the front door. The next day, her door was unlocked, so she reviewed the footage. She watches in horror as late in the night, her front door opens and in walks this tall, creepy man who looks around and then walks towards her bedroom off camera. She immediately sprints out of her apartment and calls the police, who show up and tell her to go back in her apartment and just try to stay calm, and that they would put an officer right outside her door so she's safe. As she's sitting on the bed, totally traumatized, she realizes something. She only saw him enter her apartment on that video. She doesn't know if he actually left. As she's sitting there, she feels breathing on her ankles. She runs out, the cop comes in, and he finds the tall, creepy man under the bed holding a knife and a camera.
By the way, this story is anonymous. Now, keep in mind, I never knew who my dad was from birth, but I knew he lived in the same state as me. So I was a senior in college, and it was getting so hard for me to graduate. So one day I went in early to speak with our professor about the homework, and we had a new professor. I was so upset because our other professor was so lenient with me. He understood everything. I was going to have to catch this new dude up on everything. I was hoping he wasn't strict, but just like I thought, he was extremely strict. He went by Professor Tom, which was his first name because he said it made him feel old to go by his last. So graduation started coming up and I was talking to my best friend like, girl, what should I do? I was failing so many of my classes. It was just so hard. Then when I told her we had a new professor, she was like, oh, girl, you screwed. So once me and her got to class the next day, she was like, oh, girl, he is cute. She's like, you know what you're going to have to do by the end of the semester.
So if you didn't know, I have a sister and her name's Ashley. And we both have boyfriends. And every night we both fall asleep on the phone with our boyfriends. So one day we're all hanging out and we're like just talking. And my sister's boyfriend looks at me and he's like, you need to stop going into your sister's room in the middle of the night. And I look at him and I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't have a reason to go into her room. Like I don't go into her room, especially in the middle of the night. Then my boyfriend hops in the conversation and he's like, no. He's like, no, I hear Ashley go into Kayla's room every night and stare at her. So me and my sister both look at each other and we're like, we don't go into each other's rooms, do we? And we agreed that we do not. And they said this has been going on for months. So for months, somebody or something has been going into me and my sister's room for about 15 minutes every night and watching.
Whole school knew about it, so you weren't embarrassed. And one day when you were sitting in your first period class, a girl came up to you and asked you why you were promoting your YouTube channel in the girls' washroom, and you had no idea what she was talking about. So obviously you ran to the washroom to investigate, and you found that written on the back of every single bathroom stall door was your YouTube channel and comments about how you were so amazing and beautiful and how everyone should subscribe to you. And this was really embarrassing because everyone was accusing you of writing these things, but you weren't. So you wrote a message back and asking this person to stop writing these things, and then the next day you found that they had leaked your personal information and written down your address on the bus that you take to school. So now you're really creeped out and you were scared that someone was stalking you. So you and your friends were determined to figure out who this person was. And the next day when you went to school, you all hid in a different washroom of the school trying to catch this person red-handed. And while you were hiding in the washroom, you noticed that a girl came out without flushing and she was holding a red marker. So you knew that you had caught her red-handed. So you followed her out of the washroom and you and all your friends went up to her and asked her if she was the one that had been writing on the bathroom stall. Like for a part 2, it gets so good.
Potty. It was poo-poo time. So I remember I went to the restroom and I was exploding or whatever. And these girls walked in. We're gonna call them the Chipettes, okay? This is the best part. So the Chipettes start yelling in the bathroom. Is someone here? Can someone hear me? Like, I didn't say anything. I was literally taking a shit. Like, what? These girls, deadass, start laughing. They turn off the lights in the bathroom. They turn on all the sinks, whatever. And they start saying like Bloody Mary or some shit. And then the Chipettes run out of the bathroom and shut the door. So here I am getting casted on. I remember seeing a shadow. I fell on my ass and I start screaming and crying. It wasn't good. So someone called the janitor.
And I mean never forget the time that we had a male sub in high school and a girl asked to go to the restroom and he said sure. So she grabbed something and he heard a rapper and he was like, oh, if you're gonna eat candy, you can do it in here, but you have to share with everyone in the class. And she was like, what? And he was like, well, I heard the rapper. And she whips out a tampon, shoves it in his face, and she goes, you want to share? Oh, girl, savage.
friends with the girl that my boyfriend cheated on me with. So when I met this guy, we'll call him Bronson, there was an immediate attraction. He was a Sagittarius, so he was super charming, life of the party, and it didn't take long for us to start talking. Well, it turned out he wasn't totally honest with me, and he had a girlfriend. So I cut him off and didn't think twice about it. About a year later, though, he came back into my life. He reached out after his breakup with his girlfriend, and he asked if we could give things a real chance. Knowing the connection that we had, I said yes. And things were almost too perfect. We were taking cute photos for Instagram together. It didn't take long for him to move in. And we spent so much time together. He even talked about marriage with me in front of his mom. So it felt like things were going pretty smoothly. Until one night we were going to bed, his phone started blowing up. I grabbed it and it was a notification from a guy named Brad, which I thought was super weird. The texts were asking where he was and what he was doing. And eventually I just decided to pick up the phone. And it was a girl on the other end. Stay tuned for part 2 and follow me on Insta.
Today, a man came in looking for a gift for his wife for their 10th year anniversary. He ended up picking out a piece that said, "My beautiful wife." And I said, "Anything else for you today?" And he said, "No, that's it for her, but I do want to make another purchase using a separate credit card. And could you possibly create a different account for me?" And I said, "Sure, what are you looking for?" And he said, "Do you have anything that says girlfriend?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Perfect, I'll take it. And do you have anything that says happy 1-year anniversary to go with it?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Perfect, I'll take it." So I boxed everything up all nice and I put them in their respected bags. He had me mark a K for Kristen on the bottom of his wife's bag and an L for Laura on the bottom of his girlfriend's bag. I put pretty bows on them. I handed it to him. I said, "They're gonna love it. Have a nice day." And he said, "Thank you." And shit, I just remembered that his wife's name is Laura and his girlfriend's name is Kristen. I must have mixed up the bags. Oops.
By the way, we're calling her Jessie. So I moved in before Jessie and I get settled and decorate. The next day, she comes and throws her bag on the bed, then leaves. I thought it was weird because she didn't even say anything to me. Couple hours later, she comes back and I'm like, hello. And she's like, "My bad," and comes give me a hug. She smelled very bad. She starts unpacking all of her clothes and blankets, but they smelled like mildew. Anyways, a week later, there's this party going on for freshmen, and she goes, but I stay in because I had a migraine. I told her that when she comes back, can she keep the light off? Now it's 2 a.m., and she comes back in very loud, uses the bathroom, then goes to sleep. And now I'm up, so I got up to use the bathroom too. When I sit down on the toilet, I feel something very squishy. It was dark because, like I said, I had a migraine. I get up, turn the light on, and I was sitting in her shit.
Honestly, because like when I'm tired, I go to sleep. I end up falling asleep and then class ends and everyone starts leaving the class. Except me, because I was like in a whole other universe at this point. I was dreaming, I was flying. At this point, me and the teacher are alone in the call. This is the best part! Then the teacher starts talking to me and he's like, "Samantha, wake up. Samantha, please. Samantha, you have another class." He woke me up, but I was half awake, so I didn't really know what was going on. So I thought it was my brother waking me up, and I straight up yelled. I was like, "Shut up, you fat booger." And so then I realized, oh shit, I just called my teacher a fat booger. And now he scheduled a parent conference. I'm going...
Truth be told, I've been trying to live into this image that people painted for me my whole life. Like playing sports or trying to get into the military, but I couldn't because I had heart surgery. I've always been into makeup, but when I started to get into it when I was 17, my dad used to really call me rude and homophobic slurs that really made me lose my passion. I was also insecure on how the rest of my family was judging me and also the outside world. But doing makeup is something that I love and also a part of who I am. So recently I've been just trying to embrace myself a little more and the talent that I've been gifted with. I've never opened up about something this personal on my TikTok, so this is just something a little more vulnerable that my followers could connect with so they can feel like they know a piece of who I am and where I come from.
Who would only let the students in her class use the restroom one time per semester. Well, one day I raised my hand and I was like, "Excuse me," I don't remember her name, "can I please use the restroom?" And she was like, "No, you can't because you've already used the restroom in my class this semester." Well, excuse me, you can't dictate my bladder. So I'm like all frustrated and I started secretly texting my mom because I wasn't allowed to use my phone in class. And I was like, "Mom, I'm sitting in class right now. My teacher won't let me use the restroom." And she was like, "I'll take care of it for you." And I was like, "Okay." So like 5 minutes goes by and all of a sudden my teacher's phone starts ringing and she walks up to it and answers it and she's like, "Hello?" "Yeah. Okay, thank you." And then she walks up to me like so angry and she like slams the pass on my desk and she was like, "Since you have to go that bad." And I was like, "Yeah, I really do, thanks. And I got up and left. I didn't even have to go to the bathroom. It was just the principle of it. I just roamed the halls.
Yes, biological brothers, same mom, same dad. So a little background information, my mom passed away when I was 2, my dad is currently in jail, and I live with my grandma. So at the time, I was 14, about to be 15, he was 17, about to be 18. So how this all started is one day I was at the baseball game with my friends, and he happened to be there. I was fangirling over this boy. Like, I saw him, and I was like, I'm going to marry him one day. I was feeling a little bold, so I went over and got his snap, and then I figured out that he had the same last name as me, and I was like, dude, that is dope. My exact words were, now I don't have to change my last name when we get married. So we hung out the rest of the baseball game, and I was starting to fall in love with this kid. Like, his smile, his laugh, I talked about him to my friends the rest of the night, and me and him started snapping for a while. So we started to hang out a lot. We may have hooked up a couple times, but I had to keep this all secret from my grandma because she forbid I dated somebody. So fast forward a couple weeks, we start dating. Months and months and months go by. Our 9 months come, and I finally tell my grandma. And this is where it gets bad. I'm running out of time, like, for part 2.
So when I was in 8th grade, there was this boy. And this boy would go around telling almost every girl that he liked her. And I was one of those girls. And he would do stuff with all of us. And there were like 11 of us. So we all hated each other. Especially this one girl, and we're gonna call her Abby. And every time we saw each other, we would be super mean to each other. Well, a year passed, we stopped talking to this kid. And I bumped into her at homecoming and basically apologized. So after that, we became best friends. And everything was good until every time I told her about a guy, she would start talking to them. Like this one boy that I was Snapchatting and talking to, she accidentally sent nudes to him and said, "Oh, sorry, I meant to send them to my boyfriend." So then she called one of my other best friends and said, "No, it actually wasn't an accident." And of course he told me because he was my best friend. So I was like, whatever, and stopped talking to the boy. And she did it again, like for part 2.